All right, welcome everybody to the Nephew SIG automation meeting for April 5th. I will display the agenda. So I guess, yeah, to start, Venkat, you wanted to review the status.
Yeah, I mean, hey, John.
How's it going?
Good. When I was just proposing if we can just quickly take a look at the board while all of us in the meeting. Running a separate sprint plan, I mean, I believe that's not going to be working out well because we are going to just add up another meeting on the calendar for people. They're already bombarded with too many meetings. So I'm thinking that we'll use just first 10 minutes maybe to talk about this, and then probably open up for other conversation, other agenda items. So that's the thought process. Myself and Bala also synced up on this a couple of times during the last week and this week. Is that okay with everyone?
Sure. Yeah. The separate meeting. I was hoping you could do a separate meeting in the Asia-friendly time zone, but it didn't seem like that many people were interested. So
that's
all
right.
we can do is offer it, and yeah, you want to. So we do go through, at least in my sub-project meetings, we go through the ones in our sub-project
right.
we did yesterday. But how do you want to do this? You want me to handle?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, very standard format. Just wanted to just bring it up to an attention. That's all. Primarily, I know we've been pulling things across, but it's just a standard format that I wanted to just bring up this table to share with the team, and just look at it and how many of them are in progress and to do, and see what needs to be done. That's all I can ask for. Nothing more.
Maybe one clarification. Yeah. Done means PR approved.
Done meaning
merged.
Yeah, it's merged.
Yeah, merged, right? So yeah, that's going to be a challenge, I think, at least for me, because there's quite a lot of review happening. So
yes,
I think we are in progress, but I think at least if I talk about package specialization, I think we have a implementation by the sprint, but probably it's not completely reviewed and merged and everything on the plan. That's, if I would say for my sub-project, that would be let's say the challenge, I believe.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, Venkat and I discuss whatever that we cannot complete, we will go to the next sprint, but yeah, that's absolutely fine. I know, I mean, especially package specialization, we have a lot of PRs, a lot of progress happening there, and then we are doing a lot of reviews as well. And obviously you need time to address the review comments too, right? So yeah, so that's understandable.
Good. Yeah, I think Bala, you covered it up. So a couple of things. One, we will pull this, whatever is not done, we'll pull this to the following sprint. Two, maybe John, I might need some help. I think myself and Bala also touched upon on this. Just see like what is the priority items that we are picking on the sprint, which is the must-have items. So which is the must-have items on the sprint. Maybe that could help us. In case if you want to cut out a release by May, then we should at least have the priority items already done so that we can easily take a call of cutting out the release, right? So maybe John and Wim, probably you guys can help us on prioritizing that on the sprint planning. So that would helpful.
Absolutely. I want to give Vish had his hand up for a while. I have some response, but Vish, did you want to say something first, or?
I was just going to say to Venkat's point about the first 10 minutes. Are we going to go through all the sprint items? Because we are going through at our individual project level. So I was hoping it is only going to be the sub-project leads that are going to just call out any blockers, basically. That way we don't repeat.
Yeah, Vish, that's what we are thinking. We're not going to go through the.
We are not going to go through entire ticket or line by line or ticket by ticket.
So which means just more sub-project leads will already have what they want to say, the 1 or 2 bullet points. They will actually have listed it there in the agenda, and then we can just go through it. That is correct. Okay.
That is correct.
Just a suggestion.
This is at a broader level. We wanted to address in SIG automation, like how things are progressing, and in case if there are some critical items that's not planned on the particular sprint, probably we can bring it up. Or in case if something is running slow for some reason, some blockers, if team can pull together as a blocker, we can address those blockers. or if we see a certain pattern where it is kind of blocking, like maybe we can address those specific pattern to speed things up. So yeah, these are some thought process that I have.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I think yeah, like Vish said, we've been going through these at a detailed level. Probably what we need to do, like right now, we're still trying to figure out, right, what our velocity is, this is the first sprint. We just threw everything in there and we'll see what actually happens. A lot of stuff will get pushed. The next sprint will be better at being able to predict our velocity. The other thing is around the board right now, to do in progress done, that's just the default that GitHub creates. If we want to create one, I've seen other boards where people like have an in review, right? So that it's like, okay, in progress, but not ready for review, you know, or in review. If that's useful, we can do that. I do see some things in here like this that looks like it's not merged yet, that shouldn't be in done, right? That, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
So-
John.
Yeah, go ahead, Venkat.
Yeah, John, I mean, I know what you're saying. So we can add a couple of columns or a couple of statuses to this table. But if you ask me, that's not going to really add value, because it's not a different parties or a different teams. End of the day, it's one single pipeline. So in case if you want a detailed visibility into where things are getting stuck, today we know things are getting stuck on certain places, but dividing into multiple columns, additional columns, which means the statuses, slightly adds an overhead, but it can give a lot of visibility. But do we need that level of visibility for this project? That's my question. Because here we know things are going and we know why things are getting delayed and things like that. So we just need to address the low-hanging fruits, and then we should be good.
Okay.
If it's a very spread out team, and if we have a different team cross-functionally, we are blocking, then adding independent status columns and tracking them individually definitely adds value. But for this particular kind of a project, I don't see much of a value there. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Then yeah, I think that today I didn't prepare any specific points that are blockers. I mean, I can give a brief status, which is basically the design on the package variant set stuff I'm working on. I don't think we'll get to implementation in this sprint. So I think that might be in the to-do list or even in the in-progress list that should be moved to next sprint. So probably what I'll try to do today for my items is go through and do a purge and move things to next sprint already that I know aren't going to happen. I'm wondering about, Wim, like this one, is this something somebody's going to actually get to this cycle, or we think that this sprint, or that's really going to happen? I mean, this sprint is only till next Tuesday or
Monday.
Tuesday.
Monday is the last day.
Yeah, correct.
That's actually a good point. Like maybe we should make it Wednesday, because when this meeting is, and we can do sprint planning all together, or are we going to do sprint planning on Tuesday at 9 a.m. or when do we want to do that as a group? Like originally I put Tuesday to Tuesday, and that happens to work well to give us one full week for bug fixes at the end of before the May 30th release. But I guess there's a 31st of May, so.
So John, the way I've observed things happen, it's very difficult to pull off a single sprint planning across the groups. We could do it at this meeting. That means the entire this automation meeting will be spent for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do that. We could give it a try for the next sprint, or otherwise, what we could do is we can, based on your execution thing, I can set up the sprints, and then in each individual sub teams we can discuss in detail, because I think that may be a better plan, because it takes time to discuss the whole items.
That's fine with me. I thought last time in this meeting people wanted to do it all together, but I'm fine.
That was the idea. I mean, but actually that's a great idea. But I'm seeing how things are panning out.
Yeah, it takes a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Venkat?
No, I was going to say the same thing what Bala just said. So I mean, generally, I want to ask one question. What is the pattern of a sprint planning in the past? Like, if it is taking a longer time, I don't think we should use this meeting, because we might wanted to use this meeting for multiple other purposes also, because we don't want to just entirely use it just for one sprint planning, right?
Well, sprints are only 2 weeks, so that would be half our meetings would be sprint planning. But as far as what's been the pattern, there has been no pattern because we've never done it before.
Okay.
I mean, other than last week, really, and that was
Got you.
sprint.
Okay, got you.
We wanted, so 2 checkpoints we have, Venkat. We set up the board and we discussed in individual meetings that went well. And then we wanted to do it together as a checkpoint in this week's. That did not happen.
Okay.
And at the same time, every subgroup has a meeting, and every subgroup, they go through the issues in a very detailed fashion.
Yeah.
So it's happening that way. So I'm thinking, and it's happening that way, and it's taking some time as well in individual meetings. So let it happen that way, and then let's use this meeting as a overall SIG automation sync. And that way, if there are any interdependencies or anything we can call out can happen in this meeting, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Yeah, I think Bala, that's the plan. I think we should go, because individual subgroups, right? The participant list is slightly smaller and the focus is very specific. Things could, discussions could go deep dive. We do not want to waste other people's time who's actually not needed in that particular sub project group. So I think subgroup discussions definitely is the way to go. I know it's slightly time consuming, but considering other people time in the meeting who would be wasting time on just other discussions, maybe I think it's good to have a smaller group discussions and use this particular meeting as a consolidated view, talk about any concerns and specifics. So I think that's what even I would vote for.
Awesome. That sounds great. So then next week, when we start our sprints, I'll do my sprint planning with my group on Tuesday morning in our normal meeting. I think Wim has a Monday morning meeting that might be good for that, or Wednesday morning. And then Tal has a Tuesday morning meeting. So basically what that means is that by this meeting next week, all 3 groups will have met and done their sprint planning, and we can have a 15-minute or less discussion of, here's the major things my subgroup plans to deliver this sprint period. And we don't go into all the details, but like, here's the major pieces.
Plus
so the request, the backlog is populated by then, before that, John, based on your execution plan document.
Yeah, we need to have the backlog all populated. Right now, I think we probably got enough for the next sprint already in our backlog, but there's a bunch more. Like I have a bunch of UI stuff that we haven't put in yet, unless you did it, Malo, which would be amazing.
No, that's one of the action items, John. Before this end of this week, I need to make sure that at least next 1 or 2 sprints worth content is in the backlog.
Okay, excellent. Anything else on this topic, or shall we move? We didn't, by the way, Arvind couldn't make it today, so he's not going to go through his doc. So he said we can either do it next week or people can do it offline if they prefer. We'll move it to next week for now. Pardon me. And then
Venkat has his hands raised actually.
Oh, I thought that was a stale hand.
No. I just one final comment on this particular topic, John. Maybe question to you, John. So we have a execution plan at this moment, and in the execution plan we have a separate sprint that's called out, and what is the outcome of each of the sprint that's also called out in the execution document, which is very clear. My question here is, when we say we pull more tickets for sprint 1, so does it mean whatever the outcome that is defined on the document, is it all reflected in the sprint 1 and we could not complete it, or we kind of pulled more than what we defined in the outcome in the document? So I just need a clarity there.
The document to me is obsolete, right? The document was the starting point to populate the board. So it's a little bit easier to collaborate on the document. And then once the document's there, we populate the board and we pull from backlog and everything runs from the board. We're not going to keep that document up to date. There's, I'm sure, things we aren't delivering as part of sprint 1, but also if you look at that document, sprint 2 is very fuzzy, 3 is very fuzzy. Like they get fuzzier and fuzzier. And that's because we just don't have we don't know what we've delivered. So like the idea is like, let's no longer think of that document as any kind of source of truth. I mean, Bala has maybe some things that haven't yet been populated in the board that he's gonna populate from there. But for the most part, we should be driving it off of the board and off of the backlog in GitHub. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. But my thought was this. Let's say there's a document. I know it's obsolete now because it's not going as per the plan of sprint 1 and 2, which I totally get it. But my thought was this. Whatever that's already defined in 1, 2, 3 sprints, let's put it on the backlog as the same format of sprint 1, 2, 3 as an outcome, and pull it to the sprint 1. And in case if something is not done in sprint 1, feel free to pull it to sprint 2, which is absolutely okay. But then the tag of somewhere on a sprint when this item is under sprint 1, probably we need to have. So we know at any given point in time, how much of it we have completed, how much of it is still progress versus the document in terms of an outcome. So today, if you want to pull an outcome, will we be able to pull an outcome with this board, with this what is completed? I mean, if we are clear, then I'm okay. But at least for me, that's a challenge. You know what I'm coming.
Yeah,
to.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, what for me is a bit of a challenge with the board, right? Is that in my view the outcome should be a high outcome.
That's right. That's right. So
And
that's where I'm saying the high level. Yeah, go
what
ahead.
we
Sorry.
could do is, I think Bala, maybe at least for my subgroup, what I see is that my goal was, okay, I have the base infrastructure in place to get this whole thing going, right? So that was my goal. Of course, now I don't think we have a specific issue that addresses that. So maybe that's the mistake or the improvement that we can do, is to say, okay, have like the high level goal documented. And then we say, okay, what are the sub items that are in there? Because at least what I think I achieve in this sprint is that framework will be in place. Not everything will be 100% implemented, approved, and reviewed and stuff like that. So, but my goal to actually, and that I don't think is expressed in one of the in the board itself. So maybe for each of our, what I'm suggesting is for each of our subgroups, we should basically document that high-level goal and have that as the overarching thing, which actually lists then the subgroup. I think that's what or that's a suggestion for what you're, I think, saying, Venkat, that we maybe should do.
Yeah, that's absolutely where I'm coming to. I think you're spot on, Wim. So today, if I look at the board, I'm not sure what is the outcome, meaning a particular feature outcome, if I want to drive it from a sprint 1, I don't know, because the task is spread out. Now the board is spread out, the task is spread out, right? So I cannot call out one specific feature is completed and I can say that this is ready. Even tomorrow, if I wanted to release, I can safely say this feature can be released as part of release R1, right? So how can we say, on what confidence we can say that visibility? Yeah.
So I'm wondering,
Venkat, I'll make sure I'll put some bullet points in the milestone.
Right.
What is the outcome? At this
wondering-
point of time, what I did was I just, so this is since being the first sprint 1, it's kind of a learning experience for all of us.
No, I totally get it.
So
no offense.
Yeah,
Just
no,
trying to add-
I'm not saying that way. I'm just wanted to state the fact.
Yeah.
So I think I will put that as a part of a milestone. What exactly we are trying to achieve, working with the teams on the individual milestones. That's a good.
So I wonder. So I think that, yeah, the tension here is between sprints are just arbitrary bits of time and don't measure any outcome. And we've arranged our milestones by sprint. Maybe the milestone, maybe there should be some deliverable, well-defined deliverable that the milestone is instead. But on the other hand, and then we have multiple sprints getting to that milestone and just use labels for sprints. So the thing is, we're on such a short time frame. So and there might be multiple then milestones that are different. Maybe that's okay. Maybe there's like, maybe each subgroup has a milestone, or like I think there's a milestone of like hello world. Like we have Nephew up and running. Maybe we're already there. I don't know. There's a milestone of I think the way Wim said it was we're on cruise control. All of the machinery from the SIG release is working, right? Like, should those be separate milestones? And then we can track a burn down. Like, I haven't played very much with the sprint boards here, but in theory, right, there's some sort of burn down we can do. I don't know. Somebody could play with the tools here and see how good they are.
Yeah.
I think that's what people are looking for, is a burn down of like, how close are we to some quantifiable outcome? And yes, this board doesn't help with that. Tal?
Yeah, this is mostly visibility and sharing. That's the purpose of this board at this point of time. But I agree we can get there. Tal.
So I'm coming at this as not a huge fan of Agile, but I'm a bit afraid that we're adding quite a bit of overhead to our management. Do we really need burn downs? Do we really need metrics? I think things are coming together as they come together, and probably 2 weeks from now we'll have better visibility. My suggestion is to keep it qualitative rather than quantitative at this point. And if we do hit a problem, if we get to a bridge, we'll cross it, right? If we feel like things are not coming together, if we feel like people are confused or not sure what they're working on to what's goal, then this is what this meeting is for. That's my tendency.
I mean, I think we can let it run another sprint. Like, we're probably not going to figure this out in release 1, honestly. But traditionally, at the end of a sprint, you have some demonstrable product, even if it's very limited in scope. And I think that's what people are concerned about, is that if all we're doing is tracking and then pushing the things on, and then tracking and pushing the things on, like, it would be nice to get to some sort of demonstrable product, maybe not the end of sprint 1, but certainly by the end of sprint 2.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to get into the philosophy of Agile, but sprints are very arbitrary in their length, so it's kind of an arbitrary deadline that we're setting in. And I mean, the tension is always not to turn the sprint into an actual deadline, to keep things organic and moving ahead. I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, the sprint is ending tomorrow, so we need to crunch and do some specific thing. At the end of the day, this whole thing is a to-do list with priorities, and it will happen as it happens. But maybe that sounds too wishy-washy for some people's taste, but I'm just putting in my own preference here.
Yeah, like John said, we'll see how it goes in the next sprint. We'll take it from there. I know there's a lot of topics in the agenda, John. I think we should move.
Yeah, sorry, we should move on. Thank you. Okay. Let me go back. Oh well, Bala, I guess your agenda item is next.
So yes, I think yes, one is, is Stephen here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, he actually proposed, he was actually maybe wishfully thinking or proposing supporting additional NFs in addition to the 3 that we are planning for. So I thought at least we should discuss this out in one of in this meeting.
So there's different level of support. So outside of the 3 core network functions that we are already slated to support, the rest of them we don't need to write operators, for one thing. And B, in the extreme case, we could have just taken orange things and basically use it as cat packages, and then have them being deployed. So the thing, as I said, we talked about that on Slack. The orange folks already make it such that they use Nethio, our version of the UPF control operator, plus the cat packages mostly on the rest of them, to a point where they could make a 5G call. I just don't see why we do our one with the thinking that, oh, we're gonna be doing less.
Yeah, I think one of the objective was to do end-to-end call too, right? If I remember from Wim's slide for R1. So makes sense to have the UEL and SIM and the other components as
Yeah, and then with that being the thing that hopefully the community can spec as a scope, the idea would actually be supporting other network functions. The reason why that actually comes into play is that I think it's actually much easier to spin them all up than trying to figure out which one we can eliminate so that we can make a 5G call. Because again, someone had done the legwork to make them work and demonstrated to us that through Nethio, you can create a free 5GC deployment where you can actually make a 5G call through a test tool that they actually also deploy using Nethio, amazingly. So I mean, it's very hard for me to justify saying that, Leo, this is limit ourselves on the scopes that way. Again, it doesn't really add a lot to the actual work from my perspective anyway. Anyway, go ahead.
Wim?
So it's Wim. Yeah, so here is the thing, right? So I think, or how I look at it a little bit. First of all, to make an end-to-end call, we need a UDM, or what people call a. So there is some component. If you really want to do an end-to-end call, the AMF will never authenticate you unless he has a UDM at the back, right? So that's one thing. I also believe that having an NRF in our deployment, and let me clarify what I mean by having them. That doesn't mean that we have to go to the whole hydration, migration, right. What we just have to do is spin them up. And they have a default configuration, and so it can be through a cap package that we do and spin them up as part of our end-to-end test bed, right? So yeah, you can even do that less as like a release and more as like a test tool. Yeah, we're adding. So in other words, for me, if we really want to do an end-to-end call, it will be mandatory. At least UDM is mandatory. I think NRF, in my view, is very useful because you have to have connectivity between AMF and SMF. And NRF acts like a service discovery element. So it's very useful to have it because otherwise you have a burden on getting the AMF and SMF IPs and interconnected and what have you. So that's the other reason to say that.
In fact, for the rest of the network functions that isn't UPF, they all of them are based on Orange Helm charts, obviously. All of them has init containers to wait for NRF to come up, but other than NRF itself, obviously, before they can actually spin. So they do rely heavily on NRF to know how to connect to each other, at least through the service bus. So I think that's a good thing to bring up. Yeah, for sure.
So in other words, I do agree with that, but so I think supporting it is in my view just maybe having a cap package, and I think it's already available through Orange. Maybe we have to look at
from Orange
parameters that are in there because I think they move to a certain network configuration which is completely not aligned with our architecture.
I mean, there's some work for sure.
There's some work to be done, but
because they get away the networking, they got away with it because they put everything in the same cluster. Then for us, we'll probably do it slightly differently. We would probably have to, but then still, it's not the toughest thing is already kind of resolved, if you will.
So I would try to get the people on board also to perform this end-to-end test. Because for me, it's quite also important that we were able to demonstrate this end-to-end solution. But as demonstrated by the team, yes, they use some cap package, let's say generated from the M charts that developed previously. But yes, obviously, we need to adapt some configuration with regard to your target environment. But that's something I think we could. I'm trying to managing to have the people to commit on that, but it's not yet formalized internally. But I hope I have some good news on next week. So.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to it.
Okay, awesome. I think Tal's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah, I just want to support Stephen here. A principle that I've tried to encourage us to do is this idea of placeholders, right? So sometimes, we like to say that less is more. I think for Nethio R1, more is more. We do want to show as much content as possible, but I do think throwing things in, even if they're not fully supported, and just very clearly labeling them as placeholders, I think it can give us an advantage. So it shows that these things could be covered, even if we don't do anything significant with them in R1, right? So if we have the ability to stand up other network functions, the basic question is why not? What is the what is the negative here? Is there any technical debt that will happen later? Well, no, because we can decide to remove things later as well. So I am in favor in standing up as much as we can, even if we don't have complete kept specialization for it, etc. So it might stand there and not do much, but it will be clearly labeled as a placeholder. That said, I do want to make sure that we coordinate with SIG #1 and the use cases so they're aware at least that these placeholders are there. I can't believe that they'll want to take them out, but just to make sure that they're aware of what we're doing. But otherwise, I'm in favor of more is more.
Thanks,
I
Tom.
remember from, I was just saying the SIG one, the story document, I still remember that they did have, one of the requirements was to have an end-to-end call. So I think it's already captured in the document, if I recollect.
Actually, I don't think it does. Actually, I think it was. If you look at the Kaushik's document, it was a AMF, UPF, and SMF. There was never anything about call. I think in fact there was a no, it wasn't anything. So go ahead.
Under promising and over delivering is fine. So I think that I'm in agreement here too. So what we need to do next is figure out what that means as far as actual work. It sounds like the minimum that means is taking the packages that Orange has already created and putting them into the Nefio repo and potentially tweaking them for our expected deployment scenario, and we'll just add them to the board and let's just execute on them. I don't see any issues here.
There might be an issue with copyright. So if we put them into the Nefio repositories, we do have to maintain the original copyright from Orange. Even the Apache license is not a problem. It's just the copyright notice that we'll have to include.
Well, if we pull them in, but if Orange decides to put them in and has signed this, they can put the Nefio. So that's up to them. We'll let Eric tell us what he wants us to do.
I think that's one of the things I was that if John, I mean, if you're done, John, I have to. Yeah. Okay. There are a couple of things I wanted to mention. One is the one that Tal just pointed out, because we asked a specific question to Ranch last time about contributing the exact same thing into Nefio, and they said they wanted to take it internally. I think that's what Eric alluded right now, I think 5 minutes ago, that he's gonna most likely come back with the good news. So we are waiting for the good news. Thanks, Eric. And then the other point I wanted to bring it is, John, you said date is fixed, only anything that can change is scope. So I understand two things here, few things here. I just wanted to bring it to the notice, or at least that is in my mind. One is obviously it's a great thing to have all the NFs running on R1 and making end-to-end call is a great goal. But let's not underestimate the work in the sense that the way logically I'm thinking is if we are not doing any wiring to any of the rest of the NFs, if we just deploy them, is that sufficient? For example, the Wim just said it needs AMF needs UDR. So do we need to tell AMF where the UDR is, or the other way, tell the UDR where the AMF is? So that means there is some wiring that we need to do, right? So where are we going to do that wiring? So are we going to do that in a package specialization, or is there some kind of auto discovery that happens so no wiring is necessary?
Bala, if I may, there's multiple ways to do it. Probably we have to look a little bit into it. But so the one thing that you need is the coordination of the IP, basically, right? So that's the only thing that we need. And so there is two ways. One way to do it is so the IPAM has a way that you can say, here is an IP for that thing. And so you just provision it aligned with the package, and then you're good to go. So that could be the simplest way to do it. You could do more advanced, but that's the simplest way to do it. You just say, okay, the UDM needs an IP. The package has the IP hard-coded, and we provision it in the IPAM, and then the AMF just looks it up, and you're done.
I'm not sure Vim we need that, because it's between UDM and other network function. It's based in SBI. So
yeah, service bus is
Yeah.
basically Kubernetes interface.
Yeah,
it's probably we'll create a service, so we'll probably use load balancer.
You can, yeah, sure. If you use the default network, you don't even have to do that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, correct.
But we still need a cross cluster IP address somewhere. It'll probably come from.
Yes, that's the thing that I was saying, and that's where I think, in the Orange setup there was some, I think they
Orange setup they're in the same cluster, so they never really.
they did a shortcut. So I think if you want to do it cluster wide or network wide, you need something like that. What I said.
We need IPAM somehow, but it's kind of off out of band.
Static provisioning, basically of the IPAM, and that someone can do a lookup of it and use it. That's the only thing that we have to.
So the point I was trying to say was, I mean, obviously we get the packages. That's great from Eric, most likely, and then we still have to do some networking work in addition to what we have. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight, since the dates are not moving. So otherwise, it's a great thing to have.
Yeah. So we'll learn. Yeah, it'll be a stretch. Let's hopefully get the packages. Let's put it on our sprint planning. Put it in the backlog, and then hopefully by sprint 3 or something, we'll be able to get there. By then, any licensing issues can be sorted out. If they can't do it, then we'll have to reproduce somehow the learnings. Yeah, okay. Awesome, Bala. I think we're still on your item here, but although we just covered Stephen, so what else do you have?
Next one was again. I wish Arvind was here. That was his actually wish list. I wanted to put it here. So, and again, we started discussing in the Monday SIG release meeting, John. So then it's kind of related to what we just spoke about, and then Wim brought out the great point that what is the actual objective of R1 in terms of the material results that we want to achieve. For example, the one we talked about is end-to-end call. That may be a great goal, right? That's a great goal at the end of R1, as Wim pointed out in that meeting. So what does that mean to our integration test scenarios and test beds is what there is obviously Jira, the GitHub issue in that you and Wim are contributing, John. So what kind of different scenarios that we need to test? Do we need to test into the management cluster once and management cluster with everything on one single edge cluster, management cluster with different components on multiple edge clusters? And then do we need to make an end-to-end call? So these are some of the things we wanted to discuss. And then obviously the test bed scenarios that goes along with it. Arvind's wish list was, if we spell it out then probably we can work with Victor to set up all the test infrastructure side of things, to set up maybe the kind clusters in the different configurations, different topologies. So that was the eventual goal of this discussion.
I mean, in reference to the additional network functions for testbed, I would imagine the additional ones would be in the same cluster as AMF. So in terms of creating new clusters, I don't think there's anything needed.
Yeah, by the way, in the issue list, I yesterday suggested or made a proposal on how that should look like.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that in your comment. I think to get back to Paula's question though, so I'll give my opinion on what I think we're trying to demonstrate. So to me, and I have a slightly different take maybe than other people, but to me, a lot of what we're trying to demonstrate is the ability for our platform to take that high level intent and use it to distribute workloads across a bunch of clusters and have those interconnected workloads specialized per cluster and the interconnections sort of worked out. So we're trying to demonstrate that, and to prove that that's real, we want to run a call through it. we're not trying to prove that free 5GC works, right? That's not our goal. And so in that sense, getting all the network functions running and running a call through it, that's proving free 5GC works. What we want to prove out is the provisioning and management of all of that can be done in an automated way. And we want to prove that, we want to flush out, it's not just about proving things to other people, it's about identifying the problems that we have to solve in order to make that high level intent automatable, kind of in a like be able to easily add clusters, easily remove clusters, easily add network functions, easily remove network functions, and have the rest of them adjust accordingly. So those are the pieces I'm trying to demonstrate.
Yeah, so okay, John, because I think if you really, in your view, if I rephrase what you said, I think is that for you a call is nice, but it's not mandatory. Because if, for example, let's say during our deployment, for example, as UPF and SMF will be interconnected and they will need to connect, so PFCP will have a connection in between, which already proves that the whole process of going from the high level intent to the actuation of the workload cluster works, right? We could potentially do just a ping to say all the IPs, are they reachable, and stop there, right?
Yeah, but it's not as dramatic, right? I mean, I definitely think a call is a much...
What I'm trying to say is that because to get to a call, then you need to have these additional functions. So I'm trying to say maybe we should face, or I say, or face what is the minimum and what we really want to get to and what is the minimum. Because of course, if you have proved that all the interconnectivity works, that's already a great step, because that's way further than what we were, right? And so I'm just a bit afraid that maybe we have too high ambition. I would love to do the call, by the way, just don't get me wrong, but the ambition
Don't get me
could...
wrong either. I would love to do that too. I think for R1, right, like I would prefer that what I just said be like, you know, sprint 3, right? Like, but for R1, I would love to, yeah, have a complete, because because I'm not the audience really, right? Like that's what I want to get out of it. But we need our broader community to see the progress, and it's much harder. That's what I want out of it is a very abstract thing, right? And it's very tailored to my own personal world. Like for the customers of Nefio, showing a call is much more meaniful.
Appropriate, yeah, correct. Yeah. Plus, but I think you said another important thing, I think, which is updates, lifecycle management, and I saw some of that side is we are a bit constrained with free 5GC on certain capabilities, I believe. But at least if you look to the use cases, there are some scenarios that we should prove, right? So that I like the capacity change and things like that, right? So that there needs to be some level of lifecycle operation, and in some cases they will restart. But I mean, if you look to setting up a call versus doing all the lifecycle, typically has a bit of a different focus, if you see what I mean. Right. Because typically people tend to say, okay, I go for the call, but then doing a change and doing this, and because typically you have to design for all of that, is sometimes left behind. So I think it's important to align on what we really want to achieve.
No, that's a good point. And that was kind of, yeah, the way I would phrase it, what you're saying is like, the point I was trying to make is that if all we do is achieve a call without showing those other pieces, we're not doing something new. We're just proving free 5GC works, right? That's not
so a call, a full solution. I do want to point out that one of the 3 or 4 pillars that Bernard pointed out, one of them is the inter-NF dependencies. And I think if you really lay out the NFs, we already found some. I mean, Wim and I talked about that too. We already found that there are actually configuration level. There are network functions dependencies. That's another thing to show. And there's value beyond the call itself. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. No, I'm saying I agree with what Wim is also saying. I mean, you have to build this incrementally, because you have to validate the interfaces up, then the protocol is working as expected. So validate to N4, N11, whatever interfaces are between the SMF, UPF, and the AMF, and then bring in the G-Node B, then being the UE, and then basically your N6 interface, and then do an end-to-end. So tests, I think, should be done incrementally. Otherwise, you might run into some unknown issues.
So, okay, so that's a good point. So can we build our test bed? And this would be a question for, you know, the people building the test bed. Can we build it and build our tests such that we can validate in a layered approach like that, so that we know like where we're broken, when we're broken? And that also could help us, like, if we get to the end of May and we're like, we can't quite get a call, we can say, yeah, but we can achieve this, right? What are those? What are those bars? And can we? It also gives our test team time to build, right? I mean, unless it's not that hard, I don't know. But like, I can imagine building out the first layer of that, and then building the next layer on top, and building the next layer on top. And if we can, so I don't know the technology well enough to say what those layers are, but if folks who do can get together and kind of create that layering, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, because Bala, I think for me that's an important. If I look to setting up the test beds, right? If you ask me, it has these phases in it. No matter how you look at it, because we can define, okay, this is the test bed, but you have to do this phase approach in order to achieve then the goal or goal at the end of the day. So you probably first want to bring up SMF, UPF and see, can they connect? And unless they achieve that, there's no point in setting up a call, because that's the first thing you have to achieve.
Yeah, I think probably what we can do is in that issue, we could, whatever we discuss, we can put that in a priority order, Wim and John and all of this. So just like you said, Wim, probably you can say the initial goal is to make sure the management cluster is all set up properly. The second thing is the workload clusters, the base 3 functions are deployed and they're wired. And then the third goal, third priority would be the rest of the NFs are deployed. And then we can, and even before the third goal is make sure that we can ping. The fourth goal is make sure the rest of the NFs are properly set up, and then the networking is set up, and the final goal would be to make a call.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it's important to lay down the steps, sorry, Tal, to lay down these steps, I think, because this will also show the progress where we are with respect to those.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We can add that to the story, and then probably we have Vish on the call. I think Vish and Victor were working. Probably let them brainstorm, and then they can give us come back with questions to this forum. Cool.
Yeah, I'll point out, you know, we already know that Orange has already proved that we can make a call. So we have that there. We could, anything that we're missing, we can hard code even. Again, you know, the idea of placeholders. I personally think that to be able to have a call would be a wonderful rallying goal for the entire team. To get to that point, even if things are hard coded, even if we don't achieve, you know, the complete customization that we want to achieve for all the components, we know we won't. We know that some pieces will be hard coded, maybe just copied as is from Orange. But to be able to do that, I think would be just a great thing for the whole team to see that work.
I think we already all agreed on that one, Tal. I think what we said is
just adding my 2 cents. Yeah.
Yeah, you're selling past the close, man. The idea though we're talking about is like, how do we build out the test bed to ratchet up to that level? So I think that makes sense.
Let's work on that, Bala, and make the issue, maybe create an overarching one, and then have the steps underneath.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, thanks, Wim. Yeah. All right, so that takes out the test setup, everything. So it goes to next agenda item is Aravind. He's not here, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think we have time to cover the function runtime.
Yeah, maybe I suggested to have a call on to discuss the scope tomorrow in the call, if that's okay for people. Because it's important because we at the moment our functions are going to rely on it somehow. That's kind of the way we did. So I really want to get people an understanding of what it is about and what it does. So my suggestion, so it's a bit important to do that. So my proposal is that tomorrow at 8 in our specialization call, we'll discuss that. So I have created a PowerPoint presentation so you can comment and I'll go through the details. So please join that call if you're interested in that topic.
Yeah, I think I totally agree, Wim. I was going through the code and I had a lot of questions in between. I put some reviews and thanks for addressing them as well. I think this is a very useful call. All of us need to be there because many of us will be using it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I won't. There's no way I can make 8 o'clock.
If we do it, I'll move it 1 hour late tomorrow. Is there anything else at 9?
I have my meeting at 9, but we could
Or 10. I'm happy. See, for me, it's important to have people understand this, I think. So I rather change the timing to have more people than to do it. But I want to do it right.
It's just this is a weird week, so my daughter has to be at school at like 9. So that I have to leave
9:30. Or
yeah, I have my meeting at 9, so I need to get like that's the thing that's
no, your meeting is at 9. That's true. Oh, sorry. Yeah, maybe after that at 10.
Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, that's late for. I mean, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it after offline. I don't want to take all the time with everybody on the call. Well, I mean, let's just like you plan to go ahead at 8. Worst case, I'll watch the video and we'll talk about it on Slack afterward. But I'll try to at least come. I think we.
Why don't we do this in your? Can we do this in your meeting, John?
We can do it in my meeting. That's fine. That's fine. I don't.
How about that? Can we do it?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, let's plan that. Okay. All right.
But your meeting is only 30 minutes. Should we? I think that's not sufficient. I think.
Well, I mean, we can.
Otherwise, we can make it 8:30. Can you make it at 8:30?
I can dial in at 8:30. Well, no, then and then go from 8:30 to 9:30.
Yeah.
I mean that should work. Yeah. Either way works for me. I'm happy to give up my meeting time. I think my meeting runs. I mean, I moved it to half an hour, but yesterday we used 50 minutes. So I've kept the time open afterwards. I don't know whether people have. So either way works for me.
Anything works for me. I mean, Wim, it's your call.
So what do we decide? Yeah, let's make a decision, right? I'm afraid that just because if we do it at 8:30, that we have to change the meet and set up a new meeting, and then people get confused. It's my worry.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I mean,
I think like you and John was saying, John will catch up on the video, right? I mean, you should probably stick to the original schedule, is my opinion. And
now I believe that John is
this kind of things very fast.
person to give comments.
Yeah, I think I think John's presence is maybe since completely to do with the packages, functions.
Well, maybe
let's do 9 a.m. I think what I suggest is let's do 9 a.m. because I think having John there is important in my view.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it 9 and then let's extend that meeting, John. I mean, obviously, organically or otherwise.
Yeah, correct.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Thank you all. All right, we just have 3 minutes left. Did anybody? Looks like Tal. Did you put this issue on here, or was this somebody put a question?
I did it. I did it because it came up in Tal's meeting, and then I said, okay, let's not forget about it.
Well, how about we do this? We don't have time to talk about it, but I would ask everybody to click that link. Maybe we can share it in the chat, and please comment. Let's do it just there in the discussion. There was a few proposals from me, from John, but we'd really want other people's feedback on that. Basically, the point is, just to summarize it, we're getting to have a lot of repositories. There's kind of a mix up of names. It's not very clear from looking at the name of a repository what it's for. We have different types of repositories. So I suggested a naming scheme that we could quickly know what they are about. And yeah, if anybody can chime in, and at some point we'll need to reach a consensus, because we're already doing a lot of work in the repository. So please, anybody who has their 2 cents to add to it, please post it there. It is SIG number 3 issue, I think, but all of us, of course, are involved in everything. So
yeah,
there you go.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all, and yeah, let's keep going. I'm glad to see we're making good progress, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.